On 19th of August 2020, Apple became the first company to hit a mind-blowing market cap of $2 trillion. And as soon as this announcement happened, it reinforced how big and powerful the Apple brand is. But while on one side the company was breaking new records and hitting new benchmarks, on the other side, there are some very difficult challenges that Apple is facing. The sales of iPhone, which is the most important product of Apple, has not peaked sales since 2014. The company is being sued with antitrust cases in the European Union, and giant players like Epic Games and Facebook are openly revolting against its policies. So the question is, what is this ongoing trouble that Apple is facing? What is Tim Cook doing to de-risk Apple from this crisis? And most importantly, as investors and students of business, what are the pointers that you need to keep an eye on to understand the upcoming wave of technological disruption? This video is brought to you by Vested, but more on this at the end of the video. This is a story that dates back to 2007 when Steve Jobs made the groundbreaking announcement of the iPhone. As soon as this announcement happened, the world went crazy and turned iPhone into a sensation. And every single year, whenever a new iPhone was about to be launched, the craze and eagerness to see the new product never came down. And the reason why this happened was because iPhones that Apple launched back then were genuinely groundbreaking. And if you look at the delta between iPhone and other phones, you will see a stark difference in both of them. To tell you about it, while other phones had QWERTY keypads, the first iPhone was revolutionary because of a huge leap into touchscreen and the introduction of the iconic App Store. While other phones were catching up with touchscreen, iPhone 3G was twice as fast as the iPhone, and the App Store began to have a ton of apps, which increased the utility value of the phone by a large extent. Similarly, iPhone 4 was groundbreaking because of FaceTime, HD recording camera, and most importantly, because of the announcement of iCloud that enabled Apple users to seamlessly navigate between Apple devices. And to be honest, only Apple users can truly appreciate how legendary iCloud was. And then we had the iPhone 5, which had fingerprint and Siri was fully functional. This was followed by iPhone 6, which is not just one of the best designed phones in the world, but also set the gold standards for a camera in a mobile phone. This is the reason why iPhone 6 became the highest sold iPhone in history with more than 222 million units sold. But by this time, that is by 2015, Apple had dangerously become dependent on iPhone, wherein more than 60% of the entire company's revenue came from just iPhone sales. And this is where things started to change. As tech got more accessible and competition began catching up, there were only a limited number of groundbreaking announcements that Apple could make for iPhone. And as we saw, every other phone started having fingerprint, face unlock, a great camera, and all thanks to Google, Google Assistant seems to be way better than Siri now. And not so surprisingly, iPhone, after touching a record of 231 million units, has not peaked sales in 6 years now. And although in 2021, the revenue has gone higher than 2015, with the drastic increase in the cost of the iPhone, the unit sales still seem to be lower than 2015. Therefore, Apple is on the verge of hitting the ceiling because it can no longer increase the price of the iPhone. There is very less scope to acquire new users unless the price drops drastically. And lastly, if the price drops, the profit margins are going to take a hit. So with the most important pillar of Apple's profit at stake, the question is, what is Apple doing to de-risk itself? The answer to this lies in an announcement made by Tim Cook in 2016, wherein he said that Apple plans to double its revenue from software services by 2020, which essentially meant that Apple is now going to transform from being a hardware company to becoming a software services company. In simple words, if you remember from our Airtel versus Jio video, we spoke about how Apple built its ecosystem with 3 types of products. The first was the entry product that got you into the ecosystem. Then you had retainers, which are services like iMessages, Apple Arcade, Filmic Pro, or for that matter, even your Spotify playlist that kept you hooked, because of which, when you go to buy another laptop, you are more inclined to choose a MacBook Pro, which is an upsell product. And then, after you buy the second Apple product, you have these special ecosystem features like AirPlay, AirDrop, Continuity, and iCloud that tie these devices so well together that it makes it even more difficult to break out of the Apple ecosystem. But now, Apple wants to make a small change. Instead of having these apps to just act as retainers, Apple wants to build more apps and services and turn them into money machines. So in short, Apple is deploying the razor blade model. And if you're a regular ThinkSchool student, you already know what that is. Razor blade model is a model wherein a company sells the first product at lesser margins so that they can sell you a low cost, high margin product regularly to create a recurring income for the company. Now, in case of Apple, this is a very big deal because we're talking about one of the most powerful companies in the world that is transforming its business model. Apple is so powerful that it is both capable of creating new category of products as well as disrupting an age-old industry. A classic example of the same was the iPad that created a new category of devices. And then we saw an age-old industry being disrupted by Apple Watch, wherein within just 2 years, Apple went to beat a 100-year-old company like Rolex to become the largest watch manufacturer in the world. So now the question is, why is Apple specifically getting into software services and how is it going to affect the industry leaders in different domains? For starters, just like the basic principle of the razor blade model, selling software services is a high margin recurring income channel. On top of that, as a byproduct, they also act as retainer hooks to keep people in the ecosystem. And if you look at the numbers, it's quite evident. From 2015 to 2021, while the revenue from iPhone has steadily risen from approximately $155 billion to $191 billion, which is an increase of 23.8%, the revenue from services has shot up by 243%, going from just $19 billion to $68 billion. And the catch over here is that, according to Statista, while the profit margins from iPhone is just 35%, the margins from software services is nearly 60%. In fact, App Store was being run at a profit margin of 78% as of 2019, according to Bloomberg. So the question is, with Apple entering the SaaS or software as a service domain, what are the disruptions that Apple is going to cause in different industries? Well, as far as my research is concerned, there are 3 specific areas that Apple will try to cash in. The first and the obvious forte is using the aggregator superpower. To tell you about it, since Apple has a ton of data about which apps are the best selling apps in the App Store and has accurate details about who buys them and what they use it for, Apple could directly launch a service that is in direct competition to an existing app. For example, in India, while a Spotify family subscription for iOS costs 199 rupees, Apple Music costs only 149 rupees. And the catch is, if you use Spotify Premium on iPhone, Apple gets 15%, which is 29 rupees. And if you use Apple Music, Apple gets 149 rupees as its own revenue. So this way, Spotify is at an unfair disadvantage where it either has to raise its prices or cut its margins short, whereas Apple wins both ways. This is the reason why there is such a big buzz about the antitrust case against Apple in the European Union. The second way is by getting into super high potential spaces, which includes healthcare and fintech. And as you must have seen already, they've already laid a solid foundation with Apple Card and the Apple Watch. While on one side, Apple customers are by default the most premium audience in the world, making them the perfect audience for financial services, on the other side, Apple Watch already has a tremendous amount of data to sell healthcare services to its customers. And this is such a revolution that it has a huge scope of application. An aging parent could share their heart health data with a family member, a person could choose to share their fertility window insights with their partner, and even a Parkinson's patient can share their mobility data with a physical therapist. This also includes back-end integration of data, because of which healthcare centers all across the United States can seamlessly access and share patient data with each other. This will enable patients to get done with hospital procedures within a few seconds as compared to the existing tedious procedure. This is how Apple is laying its foundation into a much needed healthcare system starting from the United States. Therefore, with Apple Card and the Health app, it wouldn't be surprising if Apple became the biggest health insurance company or even the largest credit card company in the world. And lastly, we have new product launches like the Car Project and Apple Glass, which could go on to become the next major pillar for the company. So the question is Apple really in trouble? Well, as far as I can tell you, with Apple so aggressively pursuing the software services sector and with the launch of the M1 chip, Apple is just getting started for the next big revolution in the tech world. And this brings me to the most important part of the episode, and that are the pointers to look forward to and the study materials to help you understand the trajectory of Apple in the ongoing tech wars. Before we move on, I have an interesting announcement from our partners Vested for people who want to invest in US stocks. People, now that you understand the major transition from the Steve Jobs era to the Tim Cook era, you know how Apple is going to grow as a company. Now, wouldn't it be great if you could invest in these insane growth stories of companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, Netflix, and other US stocks? Well, that's where our partners Vested come in. Vested is a 100% digital, easy, fast, reliable, and transparent application that simplifies investing in the US stock market. Vested has features like advanced charting, pre-built portfolios, and vested trends that shows you the trending companies among vested users. The best part about Vested is that they have developed an automated module for tax filing according to Indian requirements. You can open your account in just a few minutes using this app. So if you want to invest into US stocks like Apple and Tesla, download the Vested app using the special link in the description. Vested is currently running an offer wherein if you fund your account using the special link below, you will get an additional bonus of $10. Moving on to the pointers and study materials, there are 3 things that I would highly recommend you to study. The first thing you need to keep an eye on is the fintech revolution brought by the Ant Group, which is something very similar to what Apple is capable of. The second thing that I would recommend you to study is the transition of Microsoft from a software product company into a software services company. And when you understand the transition of both these tech giants, it will give you an eye-opening insight into the SaaS wave, which is literally the next big thing in the next 5 years. And thirdly, I am also attaching the links for you to understand the dispute between Apple and Spotify and Apple and Fortnite. Study them very carefully and let me know in the comment section what you think about how Google is using its aggregator superpower to take the next big leap in tech. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such free business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.